through this workshop with you all. This workshop is called the Foundations of Thought Leadership, or Reframing Your Narrative. And today we're really going to talk through and explore the source of credibility and how you can establish it. We're going to spend some time thinking through how you can think about your own strengths and skills, and maybe potentially recontextualize how you position what you know, what you're good at, and how you share all of that to the world. And so at the end of this workshop, I'll just say this up front, there is a decent amount of work that you have to do during this workshop. It's not just a sit back and kind of relax type of thing. Hopefully you're excited for that. Hopefully that sounds good. But as we go through the different exercises today, I'm going to be guiding you. We're going to have some opportunities to do breakouts. This will be my first time doing this virtually with a breakout session, so bear with me in case things go awry, but I'm really excited that we have a little bit of an extended time today so that you can get that opportunity to talk to others, get feedback. This workshop was initially designed for an in-person experience, and we have done it now for a number of times virtually. And it's been really great, but I definitely still miss that kind of in-person type of connection where you can just kind of turn to your neighbor and ask for some feedback or share something or hear from them. So hopefully we can create that with the breakout rooms. And yeah, really the point of this workshop at the end of it is for you to walk away feeling inspired and empowered about yourself and what you can do, but also specifically work on a bio. And so this workshop is actually a co-creation of a workshop with the company Write Speak Code. So they're a nonprofit that is based out of the Bay Area, but has a number of chapters throughout the US. And they're really focused, like Women Techmakers, on helping women and other underrepresented genders in tech succeed and be thought leaders in the community, contributing to the community through blog writing, through speaking. And so having a bio is a super important part of that. Being able to sort of showcase who you are when you're applying to speak at a conference or when you are authoring a blog or whatever it might be. You really want to have a story that you can tell about yourself. And so this workshop is a part of kind of a longer series of building up all of those different skills as well. But for the purpose of today's workshop, we're really going to be focusing on this primary goal of writing a bio. You will walk away with a first draft. It's just going to be a first draft of your bio, but it will be a great opportunity for you to take some time also today just to reflect, and we'll all be in it together. So as I go through the training, feel free to ask any questions. You can feel free to use the chat. If anybody would like also, you can feel free to unmute. I believe you all can do that in this. If you need me to rephrase anything, I'm happy to do that. You can take screenshots of any of these slides. We can also send this out afterwards. And if you do have handy a piece of paper, I might recommend at least doing some of the exercises with that. You can also do it on your computer, completely fine, but have like a notes app up and ready. And just for us all to be on the same page here. So speak from your own experience, use the chat to share and meet others. I'll definitely be asking for some things when we're in a big group like this. Again, you will have that opportunity to break out, but I would love to hear you in the chat. And encourage others also. We're going to be sharing some stuff that may get a little bit personal. You know, we're going to be talking about the things that we do really well and what some of our successes are. So make sure you're giving people props for sharing too. And what's shared here though stays here. So let's keep this a safe space. And finally, have fun. Let's all try as much as we can to have fun with this, although there is a little bit of a kind of a homework feel. I'm hoping that it's going to be really great. So I would love everybody to introduce yourself in the chat by maybe telling us one thing that you're hoping to get from this session. It can just straight up be a bio. That is totally fine. But if there's something specific that you're thinking about, please enter it in the chat, and I can also make sure that we get to that. And then you can do both of these, you can do one of these, but maybe one emoji that kind of describes your mood right now. I love the star eyes. I'm feeling that too. Yes, Kayla, a nice little party. We're at a celebration. Amazing. Head exploding. So much knowledge being shared. That's amazing. Yes. I don't wear glasses, but I'm like in full teacher presenter mode right now. So I love that. Yes. Right there with you. Lisa's hoping to get motivated and get some ideas to achieve some personal goals. I love that. This is definitely an opportunity both to reflect personally and professionally. So there's absolutely room for both of those. All right. Oh, and we have a cat. I think, Alex, I may have seen you with that cat too. So incredible. Well, keep sharing away. But I'm very excited for all of the enthusiastic emojis and cats. I'm curious to know who you won't leave. That's great. Who in this group already has blogged before or has spoken at events or contributed to any other type of publications. You can just write a Y or me in the chat if that is you. Excellent. Great. Yes, we have a lot of yeses. So this is great. And if it is not a why for you yet, it will be soon. I'm hopeful. But I know just in general, this room, for those of you maybe who didn't answer yes, you're all incredibly talented people. There's tons of knowledge and experience in this room. And we all have ultimately something to say and something to share with the world. Our voices truly do matter. But sometimes I think that we can hold ourselves back from sharing our voices because a lot of us feel like we have to be an expert in order to share what we know. Or to get up on a stage, even if it's virtual, or to write something and contribute into the world. But oftentimes, too, we have a really high bar for what it means to be an expert, right? Like you might feel, oh, I know a lot, but I'm not an expert. You know, there's a lot of kind of um, uh, there's a lot that goes along with that word. And I think that this is what I really want you all to get comfortable with is to recognize that sometimes when we see this word expert, it may cause a little feeling inside of, oh, maybe that's not me. And unfortunately, you know, this has a lot to do with the idea of imposter syndrome. And I think that probably a lot of you have heard of imposter syndrome, maybe experience imposter syndrome. And I like to describe this feeling as the, oh my God, or expletive there. Everyone's going to realize I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing. That kind of gut feeling of yikes. And I'd love to know, you know, for you all, what does imposter syndrome mean to you? What are some of the thoughts or feelings that can sometimes be associated with feeling like you don't belong? Mood all the time. Yeah, it's hard. We will get into exactly why this is such a hard thing to overcome. Any other thoughts around sort of the feelings or um, experiences you have? Anxiety, yes. Of being called out, absolutely. Yeah, Lisa. So, kind of what I hear you saying here a little bit is maybe not feeling like you can fully validate all of the skills that you have, or again, kind of this idea of a label that we might feel uncomfortable with. I think that that's so true. And so when we experience imposter syndrome, it's really kind of the belief, as AA called out, of being called out, being found out. Yeah, that your luck will run out soon. Exactly. And what happens when we have imposter syndrome is that we don't really take in the successes that we experience in our lives. Instead, we're really quick to brush them off as like, oh, that was just luck. I got lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. But it because of that, it's something that is pervasive and sometimes can't go away. And while there are studies that show that this is linked with being more severe in women and other underrepresented genders, the feeling, it goes across the board, right? Like it is genderless in a way, in that we all experience something like that, some feelings like this, especially in a world where we are around a ton of really, really smart people. Tech is teeming with incredibly brilliant people. And so those are the situations, I think, where a lot of that can come out. And so as you're sharing some of these, I hear different versions of these things being echoed. And so looking at these bolder words, when we are experiencing imposter syndrome, as I said, when we experience success, we attribute it outwards. We're like, oh, that wasn't us, that was something else. But when we experience failure, it's all our fault. We really, really internalize those feelings of, I did something wrong, this was all on me. But that's not at all a fair balance, because it is weighing one thing way too heavily. And so I really like this visual. This next visual I'm going to show is about this cycle of the imposter syndrome. And so it starts at the top here with this new opportunity. You get a new opportunity, and initially you're like, oh, this is exciting. Maybe you're already, spinning in your head about all the things that you might want to do. Oftentimes, though, when it's something that's especially outside of our comfort zone, or something that feels a little bit riskier, you start to feel like, oh, shoot, maybe I can't do this. Why did they ask me? They shouldn't have asked me. There are so many other more qualified people that should be doing this. And what that can lead to is either maybe you just procrastinate, you try to push it off and don't think about it because it's too stressful, or maybe it causes you to overwork so that you get absolutely everything perfect. You're rewriting things over and over and over again. But what typically happens, regardless of what we do in that kind of worry cycle, is that we often experience success. We often do a good job and get praise and credit. And so when you present that thing into the world, whatever it is, you can feel good. You have that initial like, oh, I did it. Maybe you hear some positive feedback. And then maybe you reflect and you're like, oh, I kind of messed up that one thing. I misspelled something. Oh, I didn't link to that study, whatever it might be. And you start to focus on these tiny little things that are probably only perceptible to you. But it leads to the fact that you will deny the success. You'll say, oh, there were too many things that went wrong there. I didn't actually do this. And then you're kind of right back where you were when you accepted the first kind of stretch opportunity. And so this cycle can be very vicious. It can continue unless we really take some active steps to break it. And one of the things that I want to, again, reiterate is that everyone experiences this in some way, shape, or form. Maya Angelou, who is arguably one of the most accomplished and prolific writers and poets, felt this way. They're going to find me out. And so there is some solace in knowing, right, that others experience this. It's not just a you thing or a me thing. And so why, in the context, though, of what we're doing today, are we talking about this? Like, why does it matter? We're here today to write a bio. What does talking about imposter syndrome have to do with anything? And why does it ultimately matter that you, as a single person, are holding yourself back from sharing your expertise, right? You're just one person, your voice, my voice doesn't really matter. Like, the world is okay without me. There's so many other people. But it matters because tech is communal. It matters because it's not just your missed opportunity of getting to express yourself and share your expertise, but everyone in tech misses out because tech is really a communal world where we all work off of each other to continue to progress forward, right? And this shared knowledge that we have, if every single person felt the same way that you felt and didn't want to share, where would we ultimately be as an industry? And so overcoming imposter syndrome is super important so that we can take that step to share whatever it is, whether it's through a video, a talk, a blog, however you want to share what you know with the world, conversation even. We need to first confront some of those imposter syndrome feelings. So I'm going to talk through a couple of techniques that you might be able to use when you start to feel that feeling of imposter syndrome. I think one thing to point out before we get into the techniques is it can be helpful for you to moderate and take note of when you start to feel this way. Is it with new opportunities? Is it just generally anytime you have something, or is it something a little bit more specific? Is it when you are doing work with a specific group of people? Are you especially nervous about that? Take note of when you do experience it so that you can start to understand, oh, hey, I'm about to go into this experience. I'm actually right in the middle of this experience right now. I know I'm going to be feeling some bit of an imposter right now. So what can I do to help counter that? So the first one we like to call Tina Fey's School of Imposter Syndrome, otherwise known as fake it until you make it. Acknowledge the fact that it happens. Okay, I'm feeling this way right now. These feelings aren't super valid, and just move forward. And that can be really helpful for certain people, but it might not always work, right? And so another way that you can think about it is to recontextualize. It's not necessarily about proving yourself. When you're sharing your expertise, again, you're teaching others, you're sharing your knowledge with the world. You don't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be flawless. You're just contributing something into the world. So kind of recontextualizing it, not putting so much pressure on the perfection side of things might also help take some of that pressure off. And then if we do want to counter our internal critics, I find one of the things that is the most helpful, and this is actually a strategy that you can use at any point when you're not feeling so confident, is to just reflect on some of the awesome things that we have done in the past. And we can call this collecting the data. So I would like you all to spend the next 2 minutes writing down 10 accomplishments that you can think of. And they can be big, they can also be totally small. We are going to go into a group share after this. So keep that in mind to have at least one of them that you do feel comfortable sharing with a group. But I just want you to take a moment and reflect. What are some of the things over the past years that you've done, both personally and professionally, that you could brag about, that you could say, I did that? I'll give you, again, about 2 minutes here, and then we'll go into our breakouts. All right, so we're gonna have plenty of time to do some more activities. So I will now attempt to do the breakout rooms. So you're gonna have about 3 minutes. I'm gonna put you all in about groups of 4. And just go around the room and you can share one of those things. You can share a couple things. You'll have 3 minutes, so we can just all make it quick. And to make it easy for when you go into the rooms for who shares first, have the person with the first letter of their name is closest to the beginning of the alphabet. All right, let's try and do this. I'm going to create these rooms and see if this works.
So everyone that you have left, we are hosts. So if anyone else wants to specifically jump into a room, feel free to do that just by clicking rooms in the top right. You can dive in. Otherwise, I'm going to stay here and finish my snacks.
I love it. Great.
Thanks. Caitlin, this is a fantastic. So relating to imposter syndrome.
Yeah, it's so real. It's like I do this workshop a decent amount and I still like I connect with all these things. I need to need to practice what I preach more.
Yeah. That's crazy. Even just for this conference, as I'm like doing the like I'm seeing the conference, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm not qualified for this. But no.
Yes, we need to own it. We need to own it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Right. I'm just gonna jump back into my snacks. If you need me, I'm here. Thank you so much.
Great. So it looks like we are coming back. How did that feel? How did that feel for you all to share something in a smaller group?
It was pretty interesting, but there was not enough time for all of us to speak. So there was
Oh no! Oh no! Okay, I'll give you all more time. I think I underestimated that. I'm so sorry about
It will be
that.
different room though, like it will be different room, different people. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, if you didn't get to share, and you would like to share to the larger group right now, I would welcome you to share that with us. I'd love to hear your accomplishments, even if you just want to do it in the chat. But if you want to unmute and let us know, I'd love that.
I think there was one person in our room who never got the chance to speak. I'm sorry, I don't know how to pronounce her name right. It's Tu Huang Lee. I'm pretty sure I butchered that name, but yeah, I think she was in our break room, but she didn't get the chance to speak before the timing went off.
Got it. Well, Tu, if you would like to share, I'll give you a second if you want to unmute. And that's okay too. You can also just let us know whenever you would like to share. I don't want to put anyone on the spot too much. But, you know, one of the things I think that is really great about doing something like this is, first of all, we're reflecting for ourselves, right? We're building up that list of things that we do really well, and we're reminded of all of the wins that we've experienced, all of the success that we've had. And it can feel a little bit intimidating when we have to share it in a group, right? Like, that was a brave thing to go into a room with people and share something about yourself. Like, it can be scary. But the thing is, when we practice owning our accomplishments, and sharing with the world and saying, hey, everyone, I did this, it is a huge way that we start to build up our own sense of confidence and strength and resilience, especially in overcoming imposter syndrome. And so typically what I do is I ask people to share. So again, I'll leave it open to the group, but for whoever would like to share, I'm going to let you know, we're all going to, even if we're muted, we're all going to give you a massive thumbs up. We're going to say, congratulations on your amazing achievement, and give you a huge round of applause. So hopefully that's incentive if somebody would like to share one of their accomplishments. People are getting called out in this chat. Wow. Well, we don't have to share as a full group, but I do want you to think about, you know, even if it's just to your family, even if it's just to a couple friends, getting more comfortable with taking credit for the things that we do really well really will help you to continue to progress and get out of those feelings of imposter syndrome. So we're going to kind of go on the same track, but we're going to take it a little bit of a step further. So we've talked about some ways now that we can use to overcome imposter syndrome, or just counter those feelings. I think that we probably won't ever have the experience where we never feel like an imposter, but now we have some tools that we can use when those feelings start to arise. And so when we think about sharing your experience and building credibility, there are really three factors that go into the idea of, what do I need to know about you in order to trust what you have to say? So the first one is knowledge, and that's what you know. So all of the things that you have learned over your life contribute to this bucket. The second is the experience. So what you've actually done, how you've maybe applied that knowledge in the world, the things that you've built, created, and made. And then also oftentimes there's that shiny bauble. There's that really impressive fact that might be really unique to you. And again, this can be something that's really big. It can also be something that's on a smaller scale. So all of these things I want you to keep in mind as we are going to craft our bios of part of what you're doing, and part of the story that you're telling is, hey, I know things. Remember, we're getting confident and comfortable in sharing, but I know things, and you can trust what I have to say, and here's why. That's really what our bio is helping to do. And so we're going to dig more into the knowledge and experience. But I want to start with that shiny bauble. And again, that can be something you may have already written about it in your accomplishments, but I just want you to specifically, and this could be something that you circle, just identify some of the shiny baubles in your life. Results from a project that you've worked on, an award or honor or schooling that you have, educational trainings, programs that you're a part of. It can really run the gamut of things. And so just quickly write something down. If you would like, you can also write it directly into the chat. But I'll give you about 1 minute just to kind of start to think through. Again, these are all just really thought exercises to get you reflecting and thinking back. So I have about 1 minute here. Right. Great. So we've done some initial reflection. We focused on things that make us unique, make us, things that we're proud of, and hopefully you're feeling a little bit more confident right now, even just in reflecting on all of this stuff. And I want you to take that feeling of pride in yourself as we go through the next part of the exercise, which again is the part that's going to feel a little bit more like homework. We're going to be writing a lot, but we're going to get started. So if you already have a bio, I encourage you to just start from scratch today, see what you potentially come up with. Even if you have a bio, it's likely that it hasn't been updated super recently. And so this can also just be an opportunity for you to ultimately add to it. I would just recommend, even if you have something crafted, let's start from scratch. So when you're writing your bio, you want to include all parts of yourself, but at the same time, you want to be selective about what those things are. So when we're going through these exercises, this is really just a time to brain dump. Put all the things in there. We're going to cull through them and think through the highlights at the end of this. So as we're going through it, don't worry if it's something small, something big, something in between, just write. And so when we're including all parts of ourselves, this is kind of how we're going to break it down. Roles that we've held, the skills and strengths that we have. So those two I find are oftentimes really linked. Our experiences, and then our values. So to get started, we are going to start with the roles. So what are roles that you have? It can be your current job title. It can be being a Women Techmaker ambassador. That is absolutely a role that you have. And even within your job, for example, I'm a program manager. Depending on the day, I may be a facilitator. Like today, I might be a comms writer. Like I'm doing a bunch of different comms. I could be, a project manager in Trixes and going through all of that. So even as you're thinking about your job specifically, think about breaking that down as well. So I'll give you all about 1 minute here. Again, just a big brain dump. All right, and we are going to move on to the next. You can keep adding to these lists as we go. All of these will be done in lists, so feel free to continue to add. So now we're talking about skills. So the actual knowledge piece, this is kind of where this is coming in. So list as many skills as you have. So those could be languages, frameworks, tools, different documentation. It can really run through a lot of different things. So just think through kind of some of the skills and knowledge that you have built that you want to add here. So again, one more minute for this, and then we'll move on to the next. All right, and now we're going to move on to our strengths. So this is a little bit different in skills. Skills kind of runs the all of the different things that we might know. Strengths, what are the things, maybe it's even out of that list, or some of the things that come to mind that you're really good at? And if sometimes that's hard for you to identify yourself too, you can think about what do others typically highlight to you in feedback sessions when you're having, one-on-one with your manager and they're telling you you did this thing really well. So I want you to think through what some of those are for the next minute, and I'll give you that time. All right. So moving on from strengths, we are going to talk about our experiences. And so this might be related to the roles that we've had, but specifically wanting you to just list out the jobs, the internships, again, the organizations you've been affiliated with. So some of this might come from the shiny bauble, schools, educations, certificates, and projects as well. So think about and just kind of catalog as many of those as you can. And again, we'll give about one more minute. for our last list that we're going to build. All right, this is great. Thank you all for going through all this. This is our last list that we're going to make. But this is our last list. And I really like this one because I think that when we think about our bio, we really tend towards a lot of those descriptors about our knowledge, our experience, what we've done, where we've been. But when we think about values, those are the things that, create meaning in our lives, the things that we attempt to live our lives by. And so this is the time where I think that you can really bring in some of your own personality. You can bring in, as you're going through this exercise, and I'm going to give some examples of values that you can choose, so you don't just have to, hopefully not putting you on the spot, but as you think through some of these, this can give your bio more of its descriptive language. And so I'd like you to you can pick 5, honestly, pick however many you would like. If it's one main one that you want to focus on, that's great. And just kind of think through what are the values, and also it doesn't have to be on this list. This list is just meant to be helpful. But what are those values that are important to you and why? And I think that this can help to bring up, again, some of that descriptor part of what makes you you. So I'll give you about 2 minutes for this, a little bit longer. It's great. I love to hear all of the values that you have. I think this is it's really, you know, a great way to learn a little bit about someone and hearing the types of things that they prioritize or put first. I think I echo a lot of what was shared. I think for me, what I've also realized is that meaningful work is really important, and this idea of focusing and doing things that I'm passionate about. But it's also the people that I'm surrounded by that is really important to making that work also feel good. I love collaborating with others. I love working. I love brainstorming with people. I miss that about working in person, that you can't be in a room with someone and bounce ideas off of each other. And so those are a few things that I've kind of missed in this past year, is that interpersonal kind of work that doesn't happen necessarily through a screen always. But this is great. So continue. I can show this slide again as well, or we'll show this slide again when we get into the bio writing. But I would love you. Oh, that's not how I switch to the next slide. I have to go over here. So I want you to now take a little bit of time to review and refine potentially. So from each of the lists, and we're going to do this pretty quickly because you'll also have some more time to think about it. Afterwards, we're going to go in, after this slide, we're going to go into another breakout, and I will definitely give everyone more time. But I would love for you all to just kind of look through the lists. What are the things that excite you? What are the things that you are most proud of? And those can be potentially the things that you absolutely want to call out in your bio. Are there recurring themes that you're starting to see that emerge? And so just kind of take, you know, the next 45-ish seconds to look back on the lists and reflect. And then we're going to have some time to actually debrief in a group. We are going to do a breakout. This time I'm going to do it in groups of 3 just to give everybody more of an opportunity to share. I'm going to do it for about 7 minutes. So it's about 2 minutes per person, just so that we have enough time to get through everything. And so I'd love you to reflect with your group. How did those exercises feel? What were some of the things that came up for you? Are there those recurring themes that you really like? You can also talk about some of the values and how that kind of shapes what you are thinking, you know, through, and why certain things are important to you. But I would love for you all just to kind of reflect what was going through that experience like. And we will go into rooms, and we'll see you in about 7 minutes.
Have more rooms this time. Yeah, I will join one.
How are things going, Caitlin?
Good. Yeah, I think we're pacing really well. We have after this, they're going to do a couple of like thought reflection exercises, and then we'll go into the actual writing of the bio, and then I'm going to break them out again. I'm trying to think for the actual bio. We have 30 minutes. This is going to be another like 5-ish. I'll try and do it the calculation the right way. I'll see how much time we have when we get to that point, but I may just do in groups of 2 so that they can both fully read things.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and is the platform working well for you? Like all the tech is going well?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I mean, hopefully the rooms are going well.
Yeah,
I'm
they
not
are.
in them.
I joined to one of them. It was good. So
Great.
Good.
Awesome. Yeah, it's all been good so far.
Awesome. It's looking great from this end. I just want to make sure that you are enjoying your experience too.
Absolutely.
Beautiful. Thank you again for doing this with us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, of course.
Awesome. This is my one like break time for the whole day. So I'm just like listening, but like on mute and off the video. So if you need me, I'm still here.
I see Alex here now, and you already break out the rooms, so she will not be able to join now. But yeah, like when you break again, she will be able. Sorry, Alex, we missed you. Yeah, she just joined after you created them.
Sorry, I was muted. I was talking. Got it.
Okay.
We'll be coming back in 1 minute, so
We
almost
can create
done.
a room here too, like, you can do a room here.
I broke out of my room a little early because there was 2 other people in my room, and then one girl left, and then it was me and another person, and the other person wasn't talking at all. So I just kind of like said, I answered the questions to the empty room, and then broke out once the thing came up. So it was no conversation.
Okay.
And I've been keeping my camera off because I keep getting bombarded by cats, and I'm trying not to be distracting.
All good. All right. Looks like we have everyone back. So I hope that was helpful to kind of hear from others and what they learned about themselves. And we are going to dig a little bit deeper. So we've been doing a lot of list making. But of course, when we're writing our bio, we don't necessarily want that to just be a list of the things that we've done. So I want you to just get into a little bit more of a writing flow right now. You're going to have about 3 minutes, and you can choose any of these prompts. I would recommend just picking one and just seeing where it goes. You don't need to do all of them. And write down, anything that comes to mind. Don't edit yourself, just kind of let it flow out. But again, not writing in lists. So we're kind of getting more into that creative writing mode. So I'm going to give about 3 minutes for this. Select a prompt and just start writing. All right. So before we jump in, I'm just going to give a couple of things for you to think about. When writing a bio, first of all, you want to have a clear voice, but you want it to sound like yourself. You don't want to sound like a job description, just kind of listing things. Maybe it's not in list form, but it's, this separated by commas. And so we really want to think about using descriptive language, um, and the idea of showing, not telling. When we use descriptive language, it really allows your readers to engage with your content in a more intimate way, and it gives that personality. So this is kind of thinking about all of this in a story. And so this is an example, but just thinking about more creative language that you can bring into describing the types of things that you do. And sometimes you can, use interesting words to also make it stand out. And so we're not actually going to do this activity because I want us to jump in to writing. Yes, we're not going to do that activity. I'm going to show this slide as well. But when we're thinking about this concept of show, not tell, these are the types of things we want to think about. What are those action verbs that you can use to really, you want to typically avoid the passive voice as much as you can and think about kind of those words that showcase the action that you've taken to make these things happen. And then, of course, with descriptive adjectives, I would say a thesaurus is your best friend. I constantly have my dictionary app up. I'm always looking for a different way to say different words. And these are just some examples of descriptive adjectives that you could use. And this will be displayed when we are doing our bio. So when we are finally just about to jump in, a couple things to point out. Use the tools you have, meaning write what you've done. The internet is pretty vast, so you don't want to over exaggerate something because sometimes people might be able to look that up. Quantify with data. Anytime you have an opportunity to do that, I would recommend. Don't overly saturate with numbers. But if it is something very impactful, make sure to state that. Invert the negatives. And so kind of going back to some of those words that we were talking about, the just, the I was lucky, get rid of those and give credit to your personal experience, right? So just because you accomplish something not through your job doesn't mean that it can't be a part of your bio. So it is time. It is officially time. We're going to have about 5 minutes to do your bio. It's really quick. Obviously, I know this is nowhere near enough time to write any kind of bio. But I want to give us enough time to do one final breakout and get some feedback. And also, sometimes it can help just to jot down your thoughts, and then you can go back and do the editing. So here's a helpful framework. I'm going to actually display both of these things at the same time. And so this can be a helpful way for you to think about it. You absolutely don't need to use this format. You also do want to think at some point about the way that you're describing yourself, first person or third person. Some people some people like saying, Caitlin is a program manager. That's completely up to you. Have about 5 minutes now to go through this exercise. Feel free if you have some vibey music that you want to turn up on your end, go for it. But we will meet back here well, you're not going to go anywhere really. I'll come on unmute in about 5 minutes. All right, how are people feeling right now? Are people feeling ready to go into a breakout room and do a little bit of sharing? If that feels like something you're into, can you put a Y in the chat? Or if you maybe want some more time, you can put an N in the chat. Just want to see where everybody's at. So Y for I'm ready to go into a breakout room, N for no, I need a little more time. Okay, it looks like we might need to hold for a second. AA, I know that you're ready. If you want to DM me your why can't I think of the word bio? I'd love to hear it since you are ready. But we'll give everybody a little bit more time. We may, just to let you know, we may not have time to totally break out. So if there are some folks that would like to share in the group, that would be great. So I'll give maybe about 3 more minutes. But again, if you are ready to share and you want some feedback, feel free to DM me on our chat here, and I'm happy to let you know what I think. And I won't be mean, I promise. All right. So we are coming to the end of our time here. So I want to make sure that we have enough time to wrap up. I want to share some final thoughts with you all. But just would love to get a general sense. We shared an emoji in the beginning of the session. How are you feeling now? What is your mood like? What is the vibe going on? I'm feeling like I've seen some really great sharing. I think that a lot of you have really taken this exercise to heart. I'm excited to see what comes out of it. Not exactly sure what emoji that is, but yay, I'm loving these. Maybe it's the emoji with the celebration. I feel like I want to celebrate all of you all for getting through this, because this is not easy, right? Like, this is one of, in my opinion, the hardest things about presenting or doing a talk or writing something is actually writing the bio, concisely trying to convey to everybody who you are, and again, why they care, or why they, what about you they need to know, right? And so this is really, I want you all to think of this bio that you've just done today. We won't do the breakout, as your first step, right? Like, I'm loving that there's some empowerment, some excitement, some self-love and excitement. I love that. And I think that, anytime too that you are feeling low, I have done a lot of research this year. One of my accomplishments this year is that I have built a workshop about confidence. And part of that was actually an experience for me of going through and trying to better understand, what does that mean to build confidence, and how can I myself build up my own confidence, and how can I share that information in a way that's really helpful. So one of the easiest and quickest ways to feel confident, it's not necessarily the power pose. If that works for you, that's great. But it's actually just reflecting on everything that we reflected on today, right? Like, what are those things that you are proud of? What's an accomplishment in your life? What is something that you did that made an impact on someone? And so even just thinking about one thing is proven to make our confidence go up. And so I want to encourage you to take these feelings and translate them into the rest of your life. But, on those days where you are maybe feeling a little more down, I get it. We don't always have to be feeling like superstars, but potentially using this, or before you're doing a presentation or whatever it might be, think about this. Think back to some of these things to build up that inner confidence. And so let's just wrap up quickly. This is what we did today. We did a lot. We talked about imposter syndrome. We got some tools to learn how we can overcome that. We wrote down 10 accomplishments. We didn't actually do the 5 things we can teach, but we shared our accomplishments, which I think is even better. We had our shiny baubles. We listed all of our roles, skills, strengths, experience, and values. We did some creative writing, and we wrote a first draft of a bio. So it's a lot. It was a lot that we just accomplished in these last 90 minutes. Before, a couple things I also want to end with is, one of the things you do want to consider when you are writing the bio is the audience and where it's going. If you have a personal website that you're using, that's probably where you want to have a decently sized bio. It shouldn't be anything that's like a novel to read, but that's where you can provide a lot more context and description and elaboration on a lot of these different things. If it's something, like a quick bio that's going to, be something that someone presents you with, saying, Caitlin Morrissey is a global program manager on the Women Techmakers team. That's kind of when you can make it short and sweet. Sometimes there's going to be those times when you need it in the middle. But I encourage you to think about and have those kind of different versions of your bio. Additionally, the context of whatever it is that you're sharing might dictate it. It's probably helpful for you all to know that I have done hundreds of presentations over the past 8 years that I've been at Google. And so as a facilitator, I probably should have shared that first, because hopefully that would have given you a little bit more trust in me to know that I have experience doing this. But when you're thinking about that context, also that can be helpful in going back to this list and being like, okay, what are the things that I need to pull from here? This will be a continuous process, and in 6 months this can potentially change. You may get a new role, you may have launched something that you need to add to your list, and so this is something that's also ever changing. A couple things I want to leave you with: look at other people's bios, get inspired by that. That is something that I find really, really helpful for folks that I'm really interested in. I look to see what they have, not to steal, but to just get some inspiration there. There are tons and tons of articles on this. I picked some of my favorite here that I'm going to share in the chat. Hopefully that worked. Maybe that didn't. If not, I'm going to definitely send them as follow-ups. You'll have all of these slides should you want to reference anything. But yes, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being brave and sharing and opening up. I know that's not always easy. I feel very inspired and empowered by you all. Happy International Women's Day, Women's History Month. And yeah, just thank you so much. Connect with me on Twitter. Right now, my feed is just a constant stream of IWD things. So yeah, thank you all again.
Thank you so much. And before you leave, Caitlin, we're going to do a countdown for you. When I get to 3, let's all unmute and give Caitlin a round of applause for her workshop. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Yeah, thank you for coming. Your workshop was super insightful and very helpful as well. So really appreciate it. And please feel free to hang along as much as you want. We're going on a break now, and we're going to continue our last keynote in about 10-15 minutes. Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, just a quick reminder, back here in about 10-15 minutes for our final break. Our final keynote.